Hello, it's John Murphy back again, and today we're discussing the topic of who has it worse, millennials or Gen Z. So if you're not familiar, millennials are people who are born in 1981 to 1995. Gen Z is born 1996 to 2010. So why do I bring this up? There's a common theme in the place right now where we're at in the economic cycle is that people love to compare who has it worse, who's a better employee. So let's talk about it and unbox it and give you the information from my take. So again, 8 characteristics of millennials that a lot of people forget about, and I think it's important to know. Most millennials are socially conscious. Number 2, they're technology-based. They grew up with seeing technology, personal computer, all of these things rolling out in their lifetime, color television, cable TV. Ethnically diverse and optimistic, most ethnically diverse generation. What's that mean? It was, again, all of those old policies of the government, things like that. Again, these people had it all. Embrace experiences. And again, technologically understanding that they know tech is the future and they use it accordingly. They're considered also, the millennials, the most educated generation and knowledgeable generation due to the amount of schooling, post high school education of every generation before them. Number 6, they're health conscious, and I think it's important. They know they have to eat healthy foods and take care of themselves. Number 7, they're financially conscious. They know they need to prepare and save for the future. And again, number 8, they're socially conscious as well. So why do I share these 8 characteristics? Because I do want to give the outline of the comparison. So as we talk about this, you have a better understanding. So again, let's talk about 8 characteristics of Gen Z. Here's the craziest thing about Gen Z. They are truly digital natives. They've had computer and technology their entire life. They're well-versed in it. They understand it. And again, what's important for you is to understand that these people use things differently than the generations prior to them, i.e. texting, emails, their phone, much more commonly than other people who might rely generally on phone calls. They can multitask. That's another thing. They have high expectations of the world in the future. They value face-to-face communication. What's crazy is people will say all this hatred towards Gen Z, if you will. They'll say, oh, Gen Z, you can't trust them. They don't work hard. In my experience, they're completely fine once you set the meeting and talking in person. They might just not pick up the phone and talk as much. They're practical instead of idealistic. Again, as a millennial, we go to our ideals, that perfection, that thing we want, again, doing better. Or they might just say, hey, I don't need all that. I am just more practical than that. A lot of the Gen Zs are also far more entrepreneurial. Hey, let's do my spin on it. Let's check it out and see the difference there. Number 7, they are independent thinkers. They do their own research. They come to their own conclusions. So again, it's natural when people generalize to say these things that, hey, they're too hard to manage and tough employees. And then number 8, they're global. They want to see the world. They want to travel. And they want to check out what the future holds for them in terms of seeing the world as it exists today. So again, with technology, with those things, they have a different global perspective. So let's talk about these 2 things. And I think this is what's very important when we say the differences between Gen Z and millennials. Number 1, realistic versus optimistic. Here's a stat for you. This is where I'm going with this. 77% of Gen Zs expect to work harder than previous generations. 77% know that. Millennials become optimistic because they are encouraged by baby boomer parents, our parents, and seeing the prosperity and opportunity they had. So Gen Z is more skeptical about their ability to do it and that they're going to grow up in a recession. Again, this is all according to Pew Charitable Trust and their research. Independent versus collaborative. 71% of Gen Z said they believe the phase, if you want it done right, then do it yourself. Because again, when given the option to arrange a group of desks, millennials would collaborate in an agreement and assemble a desk into a circle, where Gen Z would be more competitive with colleagues and will harness the do-it-yourself work mentality. What's crazy is this stat. 69% of Gen Zs would rather have their own workspace than share it with somebody else. So again, it's that different kind of ideal comparing the 2. Next one, public versus private. 77% of Gen Z would rather share their personal information with their pets than their bosses. So again, They are much more private than the public in the past. So again, something to consider there. On-demand learning versus formal education. 75% of Gen Z said there are other ways of getting good education than going to college. Mind blown right there for us millennials. Another one, face-to-face versus digital only. 74% of Gen Z prefer communication face-to-face with colleagues. Millennials pioneered digital communication, texting, instant message, Slack, that made the workplace more efficient, but some people say it made it less personable. So again, that's the difference with Gen Z. Number 7, role hopping versus job hopping. This is a big difference right here. 75% of Gen Z would be interested in situations in which they could have multiple roles at one employment, where again, this is much different than millennials. They would prefer a one-track career. And then lastly, global citizens, and this is again the last contrast to millennials versus Gen Z, global citizens versus global spectators. 58% of adults worldwide, 35 plus, agree that kids today have more in common with their global peers than they do with the adults in their own country. How crazy is that? So let's get into it. I tried not spending too much time and again, really beating this drum here. But here's what I want to talk about. There is so much ideology identifying of sect saying, hey, millennials do this, Gen Z do that. And it becomes a point where we lose the real goal and function of all these comparisons. Because everything I read, including this right here, and these articles are easy to find online, 86% of millennials feel they have it worse than other generations. But do they actually? Because as we dig in the details and the information, what I believe is this. There's far too much overlaying, titling, and again, not talking about the root issues, what's actually going on in the marketplace. And again, what's happening. Because 86% believe they have more obstacles than previous generations. Half millennials feel their generation has faced the worst economic environment compared to anyone before them, which is insane to talk about. Most millennials believe their financial obstacles and economy aren't going to get any easier. Because again, here's the truth. Every generation has experienced periods of great economic hardship for long periods of time. Millennials have shorter careers, right? My generation's had jobs, switched jobs, and can do that pretty easily. So again, I would make the argument that this whole narrative is not built on facts and it's built on how they perceive it. Here's another stat. 54% of millennials say they're facing the toughest job market they've ever faced. Reality of it is this. Gen X also has suffered in the same way, but they're the right age, so they're getting out of it as all these other people are going through it when we talk through the first Great Recession. Meanwhile, the silent generation might be remembered the Great Depression, but it felt before they were in the job market. So they actually started their career during the booming expansion in the post-war. So again, why do I bring all this up today and why am I talking about this? Because I am so sick of what's happening, which is this. The internet now spends a lot of bad info for the Gen Zs and millennials, and it arms them to feel defeated. It arms them to not look for people actually taking action in the marketplace. So when you look at this channel, Who Needs a Mortgage, it's easy to read it and say, I'll never own a house. I'll never make more money than my parents did. And what's the point? It's a defeatist thing. It's almost like learned helplessness. So my advice, and here's the truth about all these articles. You know what these articles are actually good for? Recycling. Because what you need to focus on if you're this deep in a video right now is that you have to focus on action items you can take into your life and do today. Too much of the stuff on the internet is just information with no tangible result that you can do. So if you made it to this point in the video, here's what I'd say. Throw out all the generalizations, throw out all your ideals, and let's start with the basics. Because here's what I would say. You can't change the past. Number 2, you can't, again, go to the internet and expect it to change your life and make something that it's not. You live in an era of distraction where the world and all these algorithms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you can even say LinkedIn, are all there to take your attention and get your eyeballs, right? They want to use you to make money. And what happens is we spend countless hours watching all these videos and then we don't ever take any action. So again, remember that. So the last thing I'll say is this. We all have the same 24 hours. Because my advice is this, what you focus on grows. And because remember, business is the only place where the 30-year veteran and the brand new person compete for that same customer. But what happens on the internet? We get disempowered, we get disenfranchised, we think the world's out to get us, we believe in crazy theories, and then we don't take any action, right? It's like home ownership. People say, hey, home ownership's unattainable for me. That is such a radical generalization that there is opportunities every single day for you to get online and actually find people doing exactly what you want to do. Because again, remember the stages of life. In your 20 to 30s, you're figuring it out. In your 40s to 60s, you're reaping the benefit, ideally, of your good decisions and careers. And then 70s to 100, because people are going to live forever now, you got to remember lifestyles and creating a lifestyle you enjoy, because this retirement thing is dead. Nobody's going to just retire and shut it down and sit around. The world's changing before your eyes. So you got to ask the question, what are you going to do? Because here's my advice ultimately, and we'll talk through about the money piece, because we're going to cover the last of it as we finish up this. Number one, what you want to do is have a low burn. That helps you. And again, $1 saved is $1 earned. Remember that. Number two, do not buy status items until you can pay for them in full, because again, they are not a path to fulfillment. Number three, the fastest way, again, to make more money is learning higher value skills. If your job isn't getting you where you want to go, learn new skills that pay better to fix it. Again, and then number five, acquire assets and things that appreciate younger in life. Most people wait for the ideal time to buy, to get inside the marketplace and invest. And remember this, it's time in market. It's not timing the market that leads to great success. Because again, remember this, kids are special, adults are not. You have to make a determination on every video watch is, what's this mean for me and how can I implement it? So as we close out this video, ultimately what I want you to know is this. There's 100 ways to compare and contrast millennials versus Gen Zs. We can go through the stats, we can go through the data, but ultimately here's what I want for you if you're watching this video. You need tangible action items you can implement in your life to make a difference, because you are what you do. So again, John Murphy signing off.